Good morning. Great to hear you. Great to be back with ChiroSecure. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity once again, and would like to bring you up to date on some recent activities that I've been involved in and around the profession, as well as some personal commentary, some thoughts, and go from there. So, going to be a relatively short session today, maybe 15 or 20 minutes. So we'll be together and talk you through a few things about where we are at this point in time. I had the good fortune this past weekend to be in Atlanta and to participate with the Life University Board of Trustees at their annual planning retreat. And one of the requests that Chancellor Riekman made of me was to offer any thoughts about the future of healthcare in the United States in terms of the system and what's going to happen and so on. And people are very confused. Obviously, we've just gone through the open enrollment period for the year, and we've seen all sorts of ads in different states and so on about enrolling opportunities and so on. And the average consumer, I'm really quite convinced that they just haven't got a clue of what's going on in the system. We know that the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, or what some either positively or derisively call Obamacare, that the change that was made last year in that was to separate the mandatory participation from the legislation. But the fact remains that the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act is the law of the land and continues to be the law of the land. What's interesting, though, about that structure is if you think about the fact that act was the largest single piece of legislation in the history of the United States relative to healthcare. And from the time that it was passed to this minute, other than disassociating mandatory participation from the program, there's been virtually no change to the legislation. There's no possible way that a piece of legislation of that magnitude, of that impact and that import across the country could have been perfect the day it was passed. It needed countless technical amendments. It needed all sorts of activities. And that because of the political situation in the United States, it hasn't been allowed to happen. So what do we look down the road and say, well, what's going to happen with the Affordable Care Act? Well, if you look at it from an actuarial standpoint, that if the younger members of the population don't have to participate, the otherwise healthy 18 to 40-year-old, 18 to 50-year-old population doesn't, and the population that needs health care, those in the pre-Medicare environment, say between 45 and 65, in that environment, if they go into the system heavily, then we wind up with a system that's doomed to fail, just simply because it doesn't have the balance, the actuarial balance, to be able to support and spread risk out over that population. So the whole system is, it's a house of cards at this point for sure. But what does appear to be the fact at this point is we're starting to see the combination of big data that the insurance industry has, that government has, and the application of artificial intelligence protocols and capacities to that data to begin to make projections, make predictions, and to set forecasts for the future in terms of what's coming down the road. And very often, these are going to translate into patterns of care. They're going to translate into pathways of care. They're going to translate into very specific protocols that once that data is fully analyzed, and across the system of healthcare, we can see what's working and what's not working, using again that big data information combined with an artificial intelligence approach. We're going to see a lot of information come out of the system that begins to impact healthcare in general. And we're going to find a lot of things across the spectrum of healthcare that have been common routine practices that are now going to be dismissed as being worthless and even harmful down the road. So we can look forward to lots of different changes coming across that are not going to be government-based. They're not going to be matters of law or regulation. They're going to be policy initiatives that are going to come from the payors that are the people writing the checks that are paying for the healthcare, and quite frankly, they're not very impressed with the return on investment that they're getting and that they've made into the system. And that chicken is coming home to roost. As it does, it's going to go through all sorts of fits and starts. And let me give you a crazy example of what I'm talking about. I get my health care as a gray haired person of Medicare eligible age. I get my health care through Kaiser Permanente. And I noticed on a recent appointment reminder that I had with Kaiser that they had a healthcare cost estimator. So curiosity got me, and I clicked on the healthcare cost estimator, and there was a listing for office visits, and clicked on the office visits, and sure enough, as I scrolled down through the office visits, there was a listing of a chiropractic adjustment. And I was shocked, stunned to find that Kaiser is telling the public, for example, that the cost of a single chiropractic adjustment, 1 to 2 segments, in their system is $432 per adjustment. Now, if you take that $432 and back it out, first of all, there's a $30 copay. So Kaiser is asserting that they're spending $402 of their money to pay for that adjustment. And then if you realize on the other end of the spectrum that Kaiser, in California anyway, contracts with American Specialty Health, and that the chiropractor that provides that care receives payment from American Specialty Health in the range of $26.92. I suppose that's not a range. That's an exact figure. Less than 27 bucks is the deal. The exact figure in Northern California is $26.92. So if we look at those numbers, 432 bucks minus the $30 copay, and then we take $27 off of that, there's this massive chunk of money that Kaiser is saying it's spending on healthcare that nobody can quite seem to find. Now, I'm a Kaiser subscriber. I pay for my premiums on a monthly basis, and I gain certain rights as a subscriber. So I'm personally pursuing this with Kaiser. Explain this to me, not in a hostile way, not in an aggressive way, not in a you lion snake kind of way, but in a straightforward, help me understand this. And I look forward to being able to share that information down the road, because it's going to be fascinating how they can possibly find that other 380 bucks that they're talking about that the chiropractor isn't getting, that the patient isn't paying, and if that money is going to American Specialty Health Network, boy oh boy, that's the best business since sliced bread to be in if it's there. How else they could come up with that, I don't know. Kaiser doesn't have any facilities for chiropractic care. They don't have any employees to provide chiropractic care. They don't have any costs associated with malpractice insurance for chiropractic care. So I don't see how they can run it up to administrative costs and so on. So it's going to be fascinating to find out. But as we move through these changes in the system, we're going to see these kinds of data come forward. And we're going to have to start asking lots of questions about it and to try and dig our way through to it. So I may not come up with anything when it's all said and done, other than a frustration and a few wasted emails and things of that nature. But then again, who knows? We might find out something in the process along the way. The point being, though, is that if we're going to engage the system, we need to engage the system. We need to stay on top of it. We need to be invested in it in terms of making sure that we understand it and we can apply it as fully and effectively as possible along the way. So as we look down the road in terms of what's healthcare look like, we're going to hear the president offer the State of the Union here, not too distant future. He's going to have a lot to say about opioids, I think. He's going to have a lot to say about prescription drugs, things that, there is no lobby for more opioids, and there is no lobby for higher costs of drugs other than the industry itself. So these are things that Democrats, Republicans could both align on and find perhaps some common ground to be able to lower the costs associated with that, whether you think they lower cost of prescription drugs is going to mean more use of prescription drugs, and we're not particularly interested in that. But bottom line is we're going to learn more about the system, and we're going to learn more about where these costs are coming from, and see what the what options might present themselves for us. So as we look down the road to the rest of the year, there's going to be an important congressional briefing coming up in March in Washington, D.C. at the Rayburn Office Building. It's an invitation-only presentation, and it's designed predominantly for members of the House and their staff to learn about alternative healthcare professions. And it's being put on by the Integrated Health and Wellness Caucus. And I look forward to participating on behalf of the chiropractic community in that caucus presentation. I think Life University will be participating with that as well. And we may even have the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress might have a role in that along the way. So we'll have some potential visibility and some information to present to you and report to you coming out of that here in about another month or so. So as we wrap up today, want to wish everybody the best. Don't forget Valentine's Day, suicidal problem, man. Don't pass up Valentine's Day. Do your duty. Most important day of the year to survive your marriage, that's for sure. So take care, do something for your spouse, do something for your mate, and let them know how important they are in your life. And we'll look forward to the next opportunity we have to be together. Take care of yourselves, take care of one another, and let's do the best for chiropractic. Let's do the best for the people we serve. Take care.